Today, the title of my research is Jogis Among Stupas, an architectural and spiritual study of Jolia University. It re-examines the famous Jolia Monastery in Texela, which is not simply a Buddhist ruin, but a living spiritual landscape where different traditions once met, learned, and evolved together. The focus of my study is on an often forgotten group, the Jogis, wandering ascetics and seeker of inner truth. So when I started the research on this term, Jogi Uttar Paharon Aya, I instantly came across the very interesting Punjabi folk songs like Jogi Uttar Paharon Aya, Charkhe di kook sun ke, Kitti mere utte mera wali chhaya, Charkhe di kook sun ke. So, to start with, I would like to play a song which depicts the importance of Jogis and certainly creates a heroic image of Jogis in that time.
No, my body is charged. अभी भी नहीं हो रही है तो कहीं से बंद कर लेते हैं ठीक है अब हो गई प्ले कर
सुनहरी गाली गानी बापू नी एक जोगी आ गया जुल्फा कालियां ते अख मस्तानी बापू नी एक जोगी आ गया जोगी आड़ के अम्मा दी छावे बह गया मेरा कद नी कलेजा बापू ले गया मेरा अर्श मनारा बापू ढह गया रूप लुट के ता सारा मेरा ले गया ओदा बिछड़िया कोई दिल पर जानी बापू नी एक जोगी आ गया कन्नी मुंदरा सुनहरी गाली गानी बापू नी एक जोगी आ गया जुल्फा कालियां ते अख मस्तानी बापू नी एक जोगी आ गया लम्मा चम्मा जोगी बाबो पतला शरीर दा डंगिया ओ जापे मैनू नैना वाले तीर दा सदा जदों झाकदा नी सीना जावे चीर दा मैनू ता ओ जापदा नी पुत्तर अमीर दा दे गया कोई अपना चकानी बाबो नी एक जोगी आ गया कन्नी मुंदरा सुनहरी गाली गानी बाबो नी एक जोगी
Kanni Mundra Suneri Gal Gani Paboni Ik Jogi aa gaya. So basically, my point is that folk songs create the heroic image of the Jogis. Back to the presentation.
My body is charged. Can you do yes? Download yes. First paper reading session. Here you go. Yes.
So these songs tempted me to dig deeper, join the dots and develop relations with the older civilization of this region, which is obviously Indus Valley civilization. To understand the Jogis of Gandhara, we must go back to the Indus Valley civilization. Archaeological findings from this site, like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, reveal symbols and postures that suggest early forms of meditative and yogic practices. Like this shows the idea of inner discipline. One of the most telling artifacts is the famous Pashupati seal, depicting a figure seated in what appears to be a yogic posture surrounded by animals. This shows the idea of inner discipline, meditation, and union with the cosmic self existed in the subcontinent long before the rise of formal religions. Moving forward, Jolia and legacy of Taxila University. Within the Gandharan world stood the city of Takshashila, one of the main centers of civilization, which we now know as Taxila. And Takshashila University was the oldest center for higher learning in ancient India. One of the most important part of Takshashila University was the Jolia Monastery, one of the earliest global centers of learning. Among its monastic complexes, Jolia Monastery stands out for its preservation and complexity. About the architecture as philosophy, the pedagogical landscape of Jolia. Jolia's architecture Jolia's architecture itself can be read as a spiritual text. The main stupa placed at the center symbolized the cosmic axis, the still point around which the universe turns. Surrounding it are a smaller votive stupas, each built by monks or patrons as acts of devotion or commemoration. Around the stupa courtyards are cells, small yet meticulously designed, where monks lived, studied, and meditated. As we can see in this architectural plan. Around the stupa, the courtyards acted as communal spaces where discussions and recitations took place, while the terraced levels reflected the idea of ascending spiritual and intellectual program. Now, the Jogis among stupas, the interactions and influence. Uh, Into this monastic world entered the Jogis, an unconventional, non-monastic spiritual seekers. They lived by intuition rather than doctrine, practiced deep meditation, and rejected rigid hierarchies. Historical and textual studies suggest that the Jogis often interacted with Buddhist monks in Gandhara. Architecture as living memory. The larger message of this research is that architecture is not static. Every monument carries the memory of those who lived, prayed, and dreamed within it. Jolian teaches us that true measure of architecture lies not only in its form but the states of mind it fosters. It was a place where education, spirituality, and art merged seamlessly. The Jogis remind us that learning does not always require walls or teachers. Sometimes it's only require silence, space, and attention. To conclude, let me say this: Jolia is not just a ruin; it's a reminder that long before modern universities, were places where stone and spirit learned to coexist. A reminder that architecture can hold philosophy, that space itself can teach, and above all, that the search for truth from the Indus yogis to the Jogis of Gandhara has always been the heart of who we are. Between the stupas of Jolia and the winds of Taxila, the voices of Jogis will still whisper, not in words, but in silence. Thank you so much.